Hello and welcome to We Are Just Two Idiots, the fastest growing podcast in the Chicagoland area. I am your host, Steve Michaels. You can follow us on Instagram and X at We Are Just Two Idiots. And as always, you can email us at wearejust2idiots@gmail.com for comments and feedback. I'm joined, of course, by my co-host, Duke Ross. Duke, how you doing today?
Oh, Steve, I'm excellent. How are you? We haven't done a podcast in a little bit. What happened? You were on the IR. What happened, bro?
Yeah, I had some rotator cuffs repaired, reattached some bicep, stuff like that. I've just been working out too hard down here, doing the Herschel Walker workout, if you know what that is, old school, 2,000 sit-ups, 2,000 push-ups. I'm huge. What can I say?
I don't know. It sounds like a safe workout. I don't know how you push this freaking rotator doing sit-ups, but all right, man.
Oh, push-ups, man.
No, I heard. I even push-ups. I don't know what you're doing.
All right. Well,
maybe when we're done, you can show us how you do your push-up, and we'll figure out why you hurt your shoulder doing a push-up.
So I got 3-4 weeks of physical therapy, then I'll be back on the golf course in no time.
Yeah, so listen, for you young kids out there, if you don't know who Herschel Walker is, Google him. I think he was a Heisman Trophy winner in 1980 out of Georgia. Never lifted a weight in his life. It's true. I think he woke up and I don't know, Steve, what he actually did, but he woke up and did push-ups and sit-ups every day. And he was a black belt. He was a lot of things. But Google Herschel Walker. Look at his body. I need weights because I was a skinny white dude, but that man did not need weights.
Oh yeah, and he was probably centerpiece of one of the largest trades in NFL history. All right. Oh, man, I can't wait for football to start. I don't know about you, Duke. I'm dying.
I think we have 5 weeks till they report.
I know. All right, so here we go. We're almost at the end of June, and always people think June and July, they're interesting months in the world of sports. There's no football, there's no basketball, there's no hockey currently being played. But like real hardcore sports fans love these months because we got baseball. We got baseball all to ourselves. And then all the off-season action with drafts, trades, free agent signings in that football, basketball, and hockey realm. So we still love it, and I know I do. So for today's episode, we're just going to jump around a lot and talk about a bunch of topics that are currently happening in the world today on sports. And I think we're going to have a good time with it. So we'll start off in the NBA. Earlier this week, we had the NBA draft. Of course, the draft gives NBA teams a chance to replenish or upgrade their roster in a relatively cost-efficient way. Why don't we start with this? Duke, I know you're the big NBA guy. I love basketball, don't get me wrong. But why don't you start and give me your first initial impressions on anything that stood out from the draft? It doesn't have to be Chicago Bulls specific, just anything that you witnessed and that you want to talk about.
Excuse me. I think the first thing, I'm curious. I'm more curious what we're going to see 2 or 3 years from now than what really happened. They talked about this as the best draft, maybe ever, certainly since 2003 when you had LeBron and Darko and Wade and Carmelo. That was a great draft. I think that was the year the Bulls unfortunately missed out on Wade and took Kirk Heinrich.
Kirk Heinrich was a good player.
He was, but we missed out, obviously, on Dwayne Wade. Should have moved up to 4 or something. Whatever. Nonetheless, I'm curious. I don't, what I really thought about was like, what is making this draft so iconic? Is it because the first 2 players, 3 players, maybe even Wilson, who the Bulls drafted, are kind of part of 4 players that could be, top 10, 15 players? Is it because if you go to, 12 or 13 picked, those guys are going to be great. And, in that area you had 9, 10, 11, 12. Those are 3 of the Michigan players. Or is it because in the 20s, 23, 24, 25, that you're going to get some great players? History says that, besides a handful of players here and there, the second round is useless. And history also says once you're out of the top 10, you have to be incredibly fortunate to get anybody that's worth anything. It's not like the NFL draft, and certainly for the second round. There's only a few players in the second round, and there's a center in Denver that's pretty awesome that was a second-round pick. But Jokic is an anomaly more than anything. So I'm curious to see a few years from now what this draft is really going to give us. And, my thought is that I think most of these guys are going to be very, very forgotten. And I think that it's going to be the top 6 or 7 that really make an impact. And if it is, I mean, nobody knows who was in the 2003 draft, who was picked after those 4 guys. I mean, most people don't have a clue. There might be obviously there's probably a couple other players, but that draft was great because of the top 3 or 4. So we'll see what history shows. But, with the draft went according to plan, right? A.J. DeBonza went 1 to Washington. Peterson, they were both upset about it, but they went to the wrong teams. And, Peterson went to Utah when, A.J. DeBonza went to university, or he went to BYU, and he had a relationship with the owner of the Jazz, who actually helped pay for the $6 or $7 million he made that was contributed for his NIL.
Yeah.
And he had a relationship and wanted to stay in Utah. So both players went where they didn't want to go, but whatever. Boozer went 3, and then Wilson went 4 to the Bulls. And, as far as, the top 3, I'd love to hear your thoughts before we just dive into the Bulls. But out of those 3, it's funny. You can say, this is who I think is going to be the best out of those. I definitely think it's going to be DeBonza. I definitely Boozer, but truth, I don't know if anybody really knows. It's the fun part of it. You can just kind of speculate. But the cool thing was, I went back and I wanted to just see.
Holy shit. Hold on, dude. I just got a text. Seiya took Miz deep in the Cubs game.
Well, that's miraculous.
I know. These guys throwing like 104, 105 miles per hour. They just took him deep. All right, sorry. Thank you, Governor, for that.
That's Mizorowski. The Cubs are playing the Brewers right now.
I know. Sorry about that. Go on.
It's all right. But I wanted to see how good Wilson was. So I went back, and I just spent 30 minutes, looking at his highlights. And I watched, Kansas played North Carolina, and Wilson dominated in that game. And if you look at the highlights of everybody, Wilson, I don't know if you watched enough of his highlights to make, to give an idea to yourself of who he reminds you of. But he's so athletic. He is so young and so raw. He's like a combination of like Amari Stoudemire, and if people remember Sean Kemp. Sean Kemp was muscular and big, but he was also, had 10 kids, and he was a grown man who went to college for, a bunch of years and then, played. This kid's 19 years old. He's skinny. He's going to fill out. If you ask me, and maybe I'm a homer, but I think out of everybody, I think Wilson's going to be the best player. If they stress defense, if they help him develop, and he has a shot. People say, he has to develop a shot. He has a shot. He's going to get better and better. I think Wilson's going to be the best out of all of them, to be honest.
That's interesting. I don't want to be the glass half empty guy, but
you always are.
Let me be clear. I think Caleb Wilson.
This is going to be a problem for Chicago.
Is a tremendous athletic specimen. I've seen a lot of reports that people remind him of Kevin Garnett, who I think is one of the best combo forwards ever to play the game. Just as and I like doing. I'm a nerd. I like doing data analytics. Some things on Caleb Wilson, though. You talked about he shot 26% from the 3-point line. 41% of his 2-point field goals came on dunks, so he's definitely a slasher and a dunker. He shoots 70% from the free throw line, and
That's a really good sign for a 6'9", 18-year-old.
6'10", yeah. And defensively, though, he's a monster. He's a monster. He can guard positions 2 through 5. I looked at his advanced defensive metrics; they're in the high 90th percentile. So, at 215 pounds and only 6'10", he's going to have to get in the weight room big time and get stronger, and he's probably still growing at that age. So, I didn't hate – do I think he's going to be great? I don't know. I didn't hate the pick, right? And I'm jumping ahead. I just think – I think the best player from the draft will be A.J. DeBonska. He's been destined to be the number 1 pick and a star for – forever. Just a quick side note: my son played against A.J. DeBonska in CP3 camp in Spartanburg.
I think it's DeBonsa.
It's A.J. DeBonska.
I don't think there's a K.
DeBonsa. It's a T. DeBonsa.
I can't. Whatever. I think you're too much pronunciation.
All right. So here's what I'll say. And
let's just call him A.J. We'll call him A.J.
Let's call him A.J. Call me biased because I love the kid, but if I were the Bulls, I would have taken Keaton Wagler. I just think
we both went to U of I, so obviously
I think along with AJ, Keaton's going to be the best player from this class. You just don't teach those intangibles. He's got an incredible outside shot. His IQ is off the chart. I would have loved for the Bulls to take him because I really want to get back into loving basketball, and especially the Chicago Bulls. But they traded my guy Ayo. But I'm rooting. Let's put it this way: I'm rooting for Caleb Wilson, and I hope he develops his offensive repertoire instead of just being a dunker. So it should be a fun year to watch him.
Yeah, I think the problem is in the NBA. You still, even though it's changed, and you can go back, to Michael Jordan's draft when, Olajuwon, even today he probably would still be the number one pick over Jordan just because of his height, unless you really knew that Jordan was going to be. But, nobody would take Sam Bowie number 2 ahead of Jordan, but he was 7'1", he could jump, he could pass. He reminded a lot of people of Bill Walton with his skills. So,
yeah,
if, as I said, there's always this idea that you need bigger players. And listen, if there wasn't that thought process, Wagler probably would have gone to the Bulls. He has certainly way more skill right now than Wilson. Wilson's so raw, couldn't be more raw. But because he's 6'9", 6'10", and he has almost a 40-inch vertical, that's effing frightening. So they wanted the athleticism. But if you watch the highlights of Wagler, and you watched a ton of U of I games, I know that. But when you go to his highlights, and I think I told you, he reminds me so much of Jalen Brunson. You have no idea. His game is so similar in the, he likes to, pull up. He'll penetrate. He'll pull up from 10 feet. He'll get to the hoop. But what he does better than Jalen, and Jalen's developed it, as a lot of NBA players do, is because the three-point shot's so important. Wagner's a really good three-point shooter. So in the end, what's more important, having a 6'4", 6'5" guard that controls the game, or a 6'10" beast? And, unfortunately, Sean Kemp never won a title, right? The other players that
he had like 11 kids out of
he won that title.
He won that title. I can tell you
that's the title.
And he gained like 50 pounds in 1 year. So
he's heavy. We're not going to poke fun at the guy, but he's obviously getting.
No,
but you know what? Even Kevin Garnett. And I wanted to say, there's some comparisons to Kevin Garnett, and I think just because of the leanness, I remember, I vividly, Kevin Garnett grew up in South Carolina, and then his senior year, he moved to Chicago because he wanted to play with Kenny Fields, who was at the time the number one player in the country. Yeah. So he moved up, and now I can't remember. They went to King or Simeon.
They went to Farragut.
Yeah, Farragut, yeah. And they were a great team. They won the state championship, but one thing that I remember, and you don't usually get to see, especially back then, you didn't see a lot of high school games, but they aired some of them because it was the two best players in the country on the same team.
Sure.
And watching him, and I remember him in the McDonald's All-American game, and Kevin Garnett was a great passer, even when he was 17 years old. And for people that don't know, he didn't even go to college. He went straight to the NBA. But he was skinny, he was wiry, he was 7'1", but he was everything. And,
awesome.
The one thing that I do like, and Kevin Garnett was, and he still is today, man, he's insane. He had a motor that was nonstop. He gave 100% always, and he was just on fire when he played. And it seems like Wilson plays that way too, and I love that.
Yeah, like I said, super excited for it. You talked about the lottery went pretty much according to plan. Like for the first 14 picks. I mean, that was. Like, we can pretend we're experts, but if you read ESPN, CBS, any of those news, Yahoo, whatever, they pretty much had them pretty much dead nuts, right? Except for Merez Johnson going number 9 to Dallas. I get, I followed Merez a lot from his days at Thornton High School, his AAU team of Mean Streets. Of course, he went to Illinois his freshman year before he transferred to Michigan. And I followed him a lot. I thought that pick was a reach, but I get why they did it. They needed people to protect Cooper Flagg and Kyrie Irving from a defensive and a physicality perspective. So I get why Dallas made that pick. But besides that, everything went according to plan.
And don't forget, May was his coach in Michigan, and he left Michigan, 2 days before the draft, and he's the coach at Dallas, and he picked. So it's interesting. You had the other two players at Michigan, and they were supposed to go higher. And, who's going to know better than everybody who the right fit in Dallas would be outside of the coach? Right. They coached all of them, and that's who he took. It was very, very interesting. And,
good. I'm glad you brought up Michigan because Michigan had 3 lottery picks: Morez, Mara, and Yannenberg. And right, I just had this as a side note. they all came to Michigan from the transfer portal. So when you hear the press and the social media say Michigan bought themselves a national title, that's not really too far-fetched. I know Portnoy from Barstool doesn't like to hear that because he's a Michigan guy, but the whole starting five from the Michigan national championship team came from the transfer portal. And give Dusty May credit. He went in there and he told Michigan what he needed to have, how much money, and they bought these players, and they steamrolled to a national championship. So, but three of the 14 picks were from Michigan. It's like Ohio State in the NFL or something like that. It's crazy.
Right. So two things on that. One, this tied a record for most freshmen drafted in the lottery. And if I'm right, the lottery is 15 picks. 12 of the 15 picks were freshmen.
Yeah.
The other three were
Landenborg and
they were from Michigan. It's unbelievable. And they were the sophomores, juniors, and seniors. It's crazy. But this is where I see it's different. You can say they bought their team, and if they bought their team and they cherry-picked the best players and said, you know what, we're going to get the three best players or three of the best players in the country and get them on our team, and we're going to pay $6-7 million to each of them. That's not cheating, but that's buying. These guys, and this is why the NIL is so great. These three players there is not a chance in hell these three players would be first-round picks if they stayed where they were.
No way.
They wouldn't have. Luxembourg is 23 years old. He was going nowhere. Mara, he afterthought. I mean, I don't even Johnson. I don't even. You know what? You watch way more U of I basketball than me. Well, what were his stats at U of I?
Well, he was a monster at Illinois, and people don't know the story about what happened to him. Like, he averaged like 8 points, 8 rebounds a game, something like that. He got hurt at the end of the year. That hurt him. But like, his dad thought that he was underutilized, and his dad thinks he's like Kevin Durant. So they wanted more money from Illinois, and they got more money from Illinois. Then Dusty May offered him more money, and his dad came back to Illinois and Brad Underwood and said, hey, we need even more money. And Underwood gave him more money. And then Dusty May went back again and gave him even more money. Like, they kept going back and forth.
Listen, that's awesome. Good for him.
I don't hold any grudge against these kids. To get the money while you can. I have no problem with that. It sucked because he was an Illini, and I bleed Illinois blood.
Remember, those three players would not be first-round picks. Maybe one of them might have snuck in, but they took players that fit their system. They had an idea of what they needed. And these are three very different players. Luxembourg is a Swiss Army knife. He can do everything at power forward.
He's going to be really good at Golden State. That's exactly what they need.
And he's older than half the team already. I mean, he's going to be a freshman.
He can guard all five. He can guard all all five
Mara
positions.
Mara is 7'3", but
they drafted him to him to guard Wembyamba.
For sure.
They need him and Chet to beat up Wemby. That's the only reason why they drafted Mara. They're not stupid.
I mean, they drafted him, yes, to
guard Wemby.
But look, they're only going to play him how many times a year? 3, 4? And then
the playoffs.
They're only going to play him if they meet in the playoffs. So, he's got to play other teams too. So there's a reason for it. And Mara's a really, really good player. And the league's changing. You have the international player who has the fundamentals. The guy's 7'3", but he can dominate on the inside. He can run down the floor at 7'3". He can do an awful lot, and he can shoot. So there's a lot that he's going to be able to do.
I was praying to God that the Bulls would get him at 15, but that wasn't going to happen. All right, what else? What do you any comments on who the Bulls took with the 15th pick?
You know what? I mean, I don't know obviously a lot about Swain, but watching his highlights now, he looks great. He's long. I think he's 6'6", something like that. He's long. He's athletic. He averaged for college. I think he averaged 16, 17 points a game. His rebounds were, 6, 7 a game. His assists were like 4 or 5, something like that. That's phenomenal for a player that nobody really ever heard of in terms of being excited for this draft.
Very, very good college player. He transferred from, what's the place in Ohio? Starts with Oxford? No. Xavier transferred from Xavier. Good high volume. He's not a high volume 3-point shooter, but physically he's ready for the NBA, size and strength. I'm old school, and I just think when all's said and done, you need to draft players that can shoot. And if they were going to take Caleb Wilson with number 4, I got it. I thought that pick had to be a shooter. So I was hoping that they were going to take Sturts from Iowa or Phelan from Alabama, guys that can just light it up from 3-point and beyond, unlimited range. They didn't. So I didn't like that pick. I know we got some friends that know, the Minnesota front office that said, hey, he was high on our list. And, of course, we heard that the OKC, GM Presti wanted to take him and trade up for him. So that has to be good because that guy's a genius. But either way, I don't know how much you know about the Bulls roster next year. Who's going to shoot the ball from the outside? They got
nobody. And
nobody.
I heard them talking, and you know what? This is what they said. The team is developing. They don't have any expectations that they are going to win anything next year. Do they want to make the playoffs? Would they love to be a 6 or 7 seed instead of being in the play-in? Of course. But this is what they said. We know we have to have shooters. We're not dumb. But what they want to draft right now are athletes. And they said the shooting will come. Here's the thing. People can develop an outside shot. Not everybody, but good players can develop an outside shot. You cannot develop athleticism.
All right.
You either have it or you don't. And they're getting big, long players. And Nick Claxton, who they got in trade, didn't seem like a big thing, but a lot of teams wanted him. He's the typical 6'11" dude that will get you 8 or 9 rebounds and get the alley-oop dunks and do the pick and rolls. They're going to be so, with Buzelis, Wilson, and Claxton, they're going to be so athletic. If nothing else, I'm not going to pretend like I was watching Bulls games last year. I maybe watched none. It wasn't worth watching. It was boring. It was awful. Ick. I maybe watched to listen to Stacey King and the rest of Soul. He's not even there anymore. But these guys, if nothing else, will be fun to watch.
What's your over-under in their win total?
41.
We'll bet that. I'll take the under.
That's fine. And I don't, if you have anything else, there's just one other thing I want to mention on the Bulls draft.
Sure.
It's insane. And then let's move on. They have more second-round picks than any team in the history of the NBA. They trade all their players, and as opposed to like trying to package some players and getting a first-round pick, God for frickin' bid, that they try to get that. They have more second-round picks than they know what to do with. Do you know what they did with their fucking second-round pick, Steve?
They traded it for cash considerations. They traded it for, yeah.
You know what? When they do these trades, if they don't want anything, I get it. Either they weren't going to be able to sign. They're unfortunately, he got $20-25 million a year. The other players got a lot of money. They weren't going to be able to sign it. But can you do something productive? Like, how about if we know we don't want anything and we know we don't want the second pick in the draft? Can we say, hey, Minnesota, we're going to trade you this. Do me a favor. For the first 10 games of the season, will you buy a hot dog for every fan that comes to the stadium? What's the cost on that? If 20,000 people go to a game and everybody buys a hot dog, you know what the cost is on a hot dog? $1, 50 cents. Can you buy hot dogs and a fucking thing of fries for everybody? That would excite the fans, not second round picks that are stupid. They're stupid. Next.
Hey, man. Yeah. I hate second round picks because they gave away 2 great players and got second round picks for it. It's ridiculous.
They should just cancel the second round. Just let everybody be free agents.
Please combine the draft into one night. I don't want to wait till the second night to watch the second round. It sucks.
You waited to watch the second round?
Hey,
you watched it?
I love drafts because my dream job in life is to be a general manager of professional sports. So I'm like, I was watching that second round go through. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's going to be there for the Bulls. They got to take him. They had a 7-foot center from North Carolina just sitting there in front of him, and they fucking traded the pick.
He doesn't fit what they do. He's a 7-foot white dude from North Carolina. They want big, long, athletic guys that have darker shade than I do. Next.
All right, let's get – okay, there was 2 huge trades this past week in the NBA that involved superstars.
Yeah, you were wrong on one of them. Who was right?
I was. Who
was right?
You were right.
Thank you.
You're right. I think yeah. So let's talk about the Giannis. I won't even try to pronounce his last name even though I'm Greek.
Antetokounmpo. You're Greek!
I know.
Holy shit.
I'll give you my initial comments, and then you can. The Giannis
please.
trade, I thought it was a Pat Riley type of move. He gave up a lot to get a superstar that's going to turn 32 this year, and missed on average 25% of the season with nagging injuries. But I know he sat out a lot of the games last year because Milwaukee's out of contention. But Pat Riley is a very smart dude. Okay, he looks at the East. The East is weak. I know the Knicks won the title. I'm not buying that they're a dynasty. He sees the East and they're weak. If he thinks like Giannis could play to his level for the next 3-4 years as a superstar, you combine that with Bam, and then he'll get some help, some secondary help and the perimeter. They could easily compete for an Eastern Conference title. So I think that's what Riley thought. From a Milwaukee perspective, they're like, I think our window's done. This Damian Lillard trade blew up on our face. Even with Giannis, we're not as good as Boston and the Knicks and Miami and Detroit. And they got some pretty good NBA players in return. Hero, Jaquez, my guy, Kasparis Yakachonis from Illinois. I love that. And they got 4 first-round picks. So I'm thinking, I see why both teams made it, and I get it. It was a good NBA trade. I'm rooting for Giannis, and I hope he's able to do some damage in the Eastern Conference Finals with Miami. What do you think?
What do I think? I think
Besides that you were right and I was wrong.
Who cares about that?
Okay.
I think that Tyler Hero, even though he grew up in the Milwaukee area, is devastated. He has, this is what I think. This is what I think about with the trade. Sorry, I go in a completely different direction. He has an Instagram wife, Katya Henry, and go ahead, everybody, Google it, knock yourself out. They have an incredible mansion on the ocean, and I'm sure she is like, I am not going to Milwaukee. Lake Michigan, I'm sure, is wonderful, but ain't going. And they have 2 kids, so it's going to be very awkward, I think, for Tyler Hero, and he's the key part of that trade, right? I'm certain he does not want to go to Milwaukee, so I don't think that's done. I think that, Milwaukee had an opportunity to, obviously trade him to Boston for Brown and get 2 first-round picks. Their thought process probably was, well, if we do it straight up for Brown and 2 first-round picks, our team was really average with Giannis, and Giannis had injuries, and they would have been a little bit better, but we're going to be no better off. If it's 1-for-1, Giannis and Brown's a top 12, 15 player in the league, they're in the same position they were anyway. So they're like, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and let's just hit rock bottom. So what did they do? They got 3 really good young players from Miami to be part of the team. You can't just have a great player or a couple of great players and not have a surrounding cast. What they have is a surrounding cast that will be an awful, awful team. I don't think Tyler Hero is going to be there. I do think they're going to trade him. I don't know where he's going to end up, but he's maybe he'll go to Orlando and he can take a helicopter back into Miami back and forth. I don't know, but he is. They just want to. I don't know who the top picks are next year, but they're going to be the Utah Jazz of next year and just lose as many games as humanly possible. And they tried. Giannis was healthy the last 10, 12 games a year, and they said, have a seat, bud, you ain't playing. They wanted to keep losing, and they wound up getting, I think, they had actually a good player. I forget who they drafted. I can look it up real quick.
I think they drafted Braden Berries.
They did from
Arizona.
I watched him. Obviously, I watched him a lot, and I love Arizona. It's a really good pick. But they're gonna just hit rock bottom and pray that the lottery gods, shine down on them.
I'm gonna disagree with you. I think Milwaukee's gonna be okay next year. I think with Miles Turner, if he stays healthy for Indiana, he came from Indiana. If he stays healthy for Milwaukee, and with this, and they don't trade these guys, I think they're gonna be okay. Because the East is that weak, but
were they okay last year with Giannis? No. So how could they be?
I think Tyler Hero and Jameer Jaquez are pretty good NBA players, and it's going to help Miles Turner. I think they're going to be okay. And if they play Kasparis Yakachonis full time, I think they're going to be okay. We'll see. All right, let's get to the LaMelo Ball trade because this one was really interesting, and I thought about you always, at least in fantasy football, you usually judge a trade on who got the better player. So in this case, obviously Minnesota got the best player in LaMelo Ball. But, like, I think Minnesota looks at this trade and says, I can pair LaMelo Ball with Anthony Edwards, and I got TSJ and Ayo coming off the bench, and I got Gobert and McDaniels. Maybe that squad can compete against OKC and San Antonio in the near future. I'm not sure. You know, maybe people don't know it, but LaMelo Ball has only played in 50% of the games the last 3 years. He gets injured a lot. You know, think about his brother was with us in Chicago, Lonzo. They get injured a lot, and they're tough.
Do you know why? Do you know why? In the beginning,
why he got hurt or why he doesn't play?
Why he got hurt?
Why?
He blames it on his fucking shoes that his dad created for them.
Oh yeah, that was Lonzo, right? Or was that LaMelo?
I don't know. I think it was both of them.
I remember it. I remember that.
He blames. This is, you can look it up. He blames the shoes as to why he got hurt.
Yeah. So I'm not. I don't want to question his toughness, but just like the data is the data. He plays in half his games. So like Minnesota really went out and said, boy, I'm going to give up a pretty good player in Naz Reid, and I'm going to give him 4 first-round picks. 3 are swaps, but swaps are pretty important, and one's unprotected. I really thought that this was an interesting trade from Minnesota's perspective. From Charlotte's perspective, it's pretty simple. They think they got 2 stars in Knippel and Miller, and if you could, you surround them with Reed and Kobe White and Miles Bridges, they're going to be competitive for years to come. So again, good basketball trade. I see it from both sides. But Minnesota gave up a lot to get a player that gets injured a lot. What do you think?
I don't know. For someone that says they're not a basketball expert, I'm trying to look. Do you have notes over there? What are you doing? How do you know all these players on Charlotte?
Time out. I'm a basketball expert. I don't watch the NBA.
It's fair. A lot of people don't. They like the storyline and the drama from it.
I mean, I like reading stuff. I'm obviously active on X. I just don't watch the NBA because of the product on the court, but I know everything.
For sure. I don't think this trade's that interesting, and I don't think people care that much, but I think the trade's going to help both teams. From Charlotte's perspective, they have Knippel and Miller. Now they have Naz Reid. They have some other good. They have Kobe White from the Bulls. They just gave him
big money,
a nice contract. I think 75 over 3 years, something like that.
We got a second-round pick for him.
Yeah, that's great. I would have gotten. I mean, raise your hand if you would have preferred free hot dog and fries of all the fans. Everybody would be like, "What a great trade! What a great trade!" So I think it's addition by subtraction, or subtraction by addition, whatever the hell. There were too many, and Ball plays too erratically. Last year he played the most games. I don't know. I think he played 68, 70 games. You might have it there. Those are the most games he played in a while. He is unhealthy, but he's erratic. He needs coaching, and Finch in Minnesota will coach him. He needs someone to reel him in, and he's a great player if he can play in a more controlled fashion. And Charlotte was, when he was on the floor, the metrics say he was their best player, and he did a lot, but I think they will be better without him because it's going to allow. Obviously, they did it. They think Knippel is going to be great. He's 19 years old, maybe 20 now. He's going to be awesome. Miller was the number 1 pick in the draft. You can't have all those players that are similar in style and who need the ball. No pun intended. So, getting Naz Reid, he's a really, really solid player, and hopefully can bring an adult, because they need an adult in the room, and he's an adult. As far as Minnesota goes, I think if they can, as I said, reel Ball in, they have a great starting 5. And if Ball can shoot the lights out, that's what they need. They need a 3-point shooter. And as long as he shoots somewhere around 37 to 40% and distribute, they'll be a lot of fun.
It should be interesting. I can't wait to watch it. I hope that team can compete against OKC and San Antonio in the near future. That'd be good. All right. A lot of NBA, man. We spent a lot of time in the NBA. Let's move over to the Yeah. Let's move over to what is probably the most exciting event going on right now in the world. It is so popular. The FIFA World Cup soccer. Duke, I know you got soccer in the family. I know you're in. Tell me what your how you doing with FIFA World Cup? Big fan, casual.
Super. I'm watching all the U.S. games, and I'm trying to watch. Some of the games are on during the day, so you can't. But the third games in the first round, most of the good teams are sitting their players, so it's not that exciting. But watching the U.S., Pulisic came back. He was hurt. He had a calf. He came back in the second half, and it was 10 minutes of awesome action.
Fun.
Unfortunately, after that, it got slow, but it was fun. There's no doubt. Pulisic is, one of those players that, is better than everybody else on the field when he's playing. So it's fun, and you can see it. You can see his speed. It's fun to watch. Unfortunately, at the end the U.S. lost. It was 2-2, and they sat most of their starters, so they weren't trying to lose, but they weren't necessarily trying to win. It mattered to them, but it was deflating. And literally in the last second,
I thought they were going to blow the whistle and call the game over.
I know.
It's
the
at
last
+7.
second, they lost the game, and the only question is, will this have an effect? You can say, oh, they weren't trying, the starters weren't in, but that's pretty effing deflating. That could linger in my mind. I don't know what your thoughts on that, but it can linger.
It definitely can, because what a great it would have been to go 3-0 into the next round. And that game ended like at 12:45 at night my time. It was so intense, but give Turkey credit that they were going home the next day, and they played their hearts out at the end. You can tell they wanted to win that. They threw everything at it that they could. So,
all right, I have two thoughts on it, and it'll be exciting moving forward. I think with all the great players are still alive. This is what I think. The U.S. team, they had along with a lot of the number one seeds, they had an easy draw. It's not like they had tough matches. Australia is not known as
no major teams from Europe or South America.
So it was they were expected to win. In the round of 32, they're going to be playing against Bosnia, and if they beat Bosnia, in the round of 16, the favorite is Egypt. So they're probably going to be favorites in all of these, and it's one and done. So anybody can lose. It's not like, but they're going to be favored. So they're going to be, if they're favored, then they're expected to win these matches, and it'll be cool. But it's an easy draw, so to speak, to get to the round of 8. So,
but it's knockout. It's knockout, right? If you lose, you're done.
Yeah, it's one and done. Yeah, it's one and done. So this is my other confusion, and I had a really, really hard time watching the U.S. match. And I'm going to tell you why. Mm-hmm. My whole life, I don't understand. Why do we grow up here and they teach us the wrong pronunciation on a country and even how to spell it? My whole life, it's Turkey. Let's go to Turkey. Turkey's really close to Egypt or to Greece. How about we go to Turkey? Let's have turkey for Thanksgiving. It's Turkey. It's Turkey? What the? I couldn't stop every time. I don't even know if I was watching the game. I was just looking at the spelling all the time, and it's Turkey, and people are saying Turkey, and I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? Why do they do this to us? I can't watch the game because it's Turkey. It's not Turkey, Steve.
I know. I had to ask Ella. I was like, is that the Turkey that we know, like in, like in Eastern Europe and stuff like that? Yeah, Turkey. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's our country. Are we so egocentric that we make up our own fucking names for their country? I can't imagine they appreciate it. America. I mean, what do they? It's very confusing. That's my take. Sorry, that's my take on soccer. We're pronouncing countries any way we want. It's Trumpisms. We do what we want. Gulf of America. Let's go.
All right, then we're definitely going to change the subject now. All right, let's shift to the world of baseball. As summer.
It's the Gulf of Mexico, Steve. Is this working? Gulf of Mexico. Go ahead.
I think it's called the Gulf of America now. You can Google it if you want.
Alexa, is it the Gulf of America or Gulf of Mexico?
Alexa is very, very liberal.
The body is officially the Gulf of America per executive order, though most people still refer to it as the Gulf of Mexico.
Thank you, Alexa.
Nope, I think Alexa had it right.
She did.
She said.
I find that. Thank you, honey. I find
How much do you flirt with Alexa a night?
Not that much, but if I tell her I love her, she's like, "That's so thoughtful."
All right.
Okay,
nice. Here we go. All right, let's talk about some baseball because the Cubs are on fire. PCA.
It doesn't count if you're on fire when you play the Mets, Steve.
Dude, I agree. I hate the Mets. They're one of my least favorite teams in the majors, so it's so fun to see them suck so bad. Be that in May, they won 4 in a row. They're in the second wild card spot. PCA has turned the corner and really turned into a superstar. I did some research on it. He's having one of the best months in Major League Baseball history. And when you compare those, it's against the steroid era. Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa. Like, PCA is doing it like home runs, his defense, stolen bases, RBI. Like, it's been one of the most amazing months I've ever seen.
He had I don't know what the stat is. He had a 12 to 15 game stretch where he did something that hasn't been done since like 1902 statistically from the leadoff spot. Yeah. In 100 years, he did something that for a period of 2 to 3 weeks that no one has ever done statistically. That's insane. And he's a Gold Glove center fielder.
It's crazy. It's good. And then you see signs of Swanson and Horner turning it around a little bit. Again, that is at New York. But, I'm going to do glass half full here because, Gov gets on me. You get on me a lot. Hey, the Cubs are second in the majors with respect to the number of days lost by pitchers to the IL, both starters and relievers. So, hopefully, we can get Boyd back. It doesn't sound like Steele's going to be in it for the long term. If we can get some pitchers back, we get Talion back, and the way Ria's pitching, geez, if we can get Ben Brown back healthy, maybe they can make a run. I don't think they're going to catch Milwaukee, of course, but maybe they can catch a run and solidify a wild card spot. And like we said in the last podcast, that's Jed's job, is to compete for a wild card. And right now, he's following orders pretty well, and that's where the team is at. I don't know.
Baseball's different. In September, the White Sox won a World Series because they got hot in September and carried over to October. Yeah. If they can get hot at the right time, and look, the reality is they're not as good as those 2 back-to-back 10-game winning streaks, and they're not nearly as bad as what they've shown. So they're probably somewhere in the middle, and where the middle is probably a 90-win team. And that a 90-win team can win the World Series if you get hot at the right time, and they just very slowly have to stay competitive. And in July and August, they're going to get pitching back. The hitters will come around. These guys are, guys like Bregman will eventually hit. Maybe not what we hope, but he'll eventually hit. Nico Horner is going to come back, and he's going to hit 280 because he's a career 280 hitter. He's not a 220 hitter. So these guys will come around, and they'll get better. And listen, PCA is not going to continue to hit like this. It's impossible. He'll wind up hitting 380 for the year. He's streaky. What we found is he is very, very streaky, and his streak can last 2 months. It's not like he's streaky for a week. His streak can go a long time, but then he's streaky bad too. So hopefully he doesn't go streaky bad in September.
And that's what happened last year, right? Him and Tucker were on fire in June and mid-July. Then everybody hit a wall in August and September, and they became a 500 team. I'm cautiously optimistic that the Cubs can hold on to a wild card spot. We'll see how it goes. They're up 1-0 right now against Miz. But, it's in the 6th inning. Their starting pitching starting to die down, and they got to go to that atrocious bullpen. So I'm not confident. Okay. How about I love the White Sox. I'm not as big a fan, of course, as you are. I've been getting some feedback privately, like you guys don't talk about the White Sox. Of course, Clark is, beating me up. You don't talk Sox. So, I'm going to give you tell me, what's your initial impressions on the White Sox?
What are my initial impression?
Well,
I'm just glad they're not losing 100. I'm glad they're not losing 120 games, Steve. I'm thrilled that they're not losing. That's my impression. They are building. It sucked because
they're always building.
Shut up. Last year, 2 years ago, they made a huge mistake. They lost 120 games, and Major League Baseball changed the rule. You have to spend X amount of dollars because it's almost like a tanking rule. You have to spend X amount of dollars. If you don't, you get immediately dropped to the 10th pick. So they lost 120 games. They were god effing awful, and they effed up and didn't get the first pick. It sucked.
Is that why they dropped? I thought they couldn't get the first pick because you're not allowed to have the first pick multiple years in a row. No, you're saying because they didn't hit the salary for it?
They didn't hit They needed to spend X amount of dollars, and they didn't. So they got screwed. It was stupid. This year they have the number 1 pick, and it's going to be Rock Kolowski from UCLA. He's an awesome shortstop. The top 4 picks, it's crazy. There's a catcher and then 2 other shortstops. So there's not a pitcher. There's not a dominant pitcher. I wish there was somebody throwing 100 miles an hour and they could take him. But, the Sox, if they get Rock Kolowski, and he'll be in the minors for a year at most, and he'll be up. He is I hate when they say this. He's a generational player. He's the best shortstop to come around in about 10 years. So it's awesome. And they have
they're set at shortstop.
Yeah, who's their shortstop? Do you have it written down?
I know it's Meredith because we had this.
First of all, his name's Majroth, and he's a second baseman. Montgomery.
Is it Montgomery?
Yeah, Braden Montgomery. Or, forgive me, Colson Montgomery. Braden Montgomery was their top prospect coming up. He's playing right field. So, look, they have both Montgomerys. They have Vargas at third. They have Majroth. Teal is going to be their catcher. He's been out all year. He just came back. They have a lot. They have, I forgot the name of the pitcher. They have a top 20 pitcher. I think he's the 16th ranked prospect overall. I forget his name, but he is going to be in the rotation next year if they can do what Milwaukee does and find some hard throwers, find some gas. They can come. They're on the come. Put it that way. They're going to have to start spending some money, and we'll see what happens. But I think the days of them being truthfully under 500 are gone, and they're going to be incredibly competitive. Fortunately, they're in a division where the teams really aren't that great, right. So it's easier to win the division at 87, 88 games. But they'll continue to grow. They have a really good base, and they're never going to spend the $200 million that the Cubs spend. It's not going to happen. But will they slowly go up when it's warranted? And listen, don't forget Murakami. Hopefully they're going to, if Murakami continues to play, hopefully they see the value. He has 2 more years after this, but they extend him. We need him. He's been on the injured list. He still has 20 home runs, but, they have Montgomery's got 20 home runs. Murakami had 20. He's been out for a month. He had 20. Vargas, I think Vargas has 16 home runs. So they have power. They play in a ballpark where the ball carries, but they've got more power than the Cubs. I can tell you that.
They got some guys that can hit out of.
And they have more youth. So I love both teams. And would I rather be the Cubs right now? Yeah, because they spend $100 million more than the White Sox will ever dream of. But which organization would I rather have right now? The Sox. They have more potential. They do.
Okay. Yeah, they're up 13-1 tonight, so it's pretty solid. I think with their core, with their young core, like Reinsdorf or whoever the new owner is, they got to step up and put some money into the pitching, because right now the pitching is, I would say, below average. And if they're going to do it, I mean, they should put money in the pitching just to win the division. So they easily should be better than Cleveland if they had the pitching. So,
look, I think the goal is to be good enough. I think the goal is to be good enough for you to not think that the second baseman's name is Meredith. That's the goal.
I said Meredith. You're right. Meredith. Meredith. Gotcha. All right. Wow. We talked Sox.
Thanks. That was fun.
That was fun.
I'll talk Sox. What do you want to do? You want to talk 1983? You want to talk about winning ugly? Greg Lazinski, Harold Baines, Vance Law, Ron Kittle, Carlton Fisk. Let's talk 1983. Or do you want to talk 1984? Can you even name the players in the 1984 Cubs?
I can name on the 84 Cubs. 84 Cubs. I can name every player.
All right, fair.
You don't think so?
No, I know you.
I'm pretty sure I can. And I thought you said 94 Sox. 84 Cubs. Yeah.
Who had the best nickname in the 84 Cubs?
Bobby Denier.
What was his nickname?
The Rabbit?
The Deer.
The Deer.
That's not the best nickname. The Penguin. The Penguin.
The Penguin, Ron Say.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Miss Harry. Okay. Man, we got through baseball. What other major things are going on? Let's see. Oh. Yeah, I know I was very hesitant to talk about this topic. I know you want to, but I say screw it. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Caitlin Clark and what's going on in the past 24, 48 hours with her in the WNBA. What do you Duke? I think it's disgusting. When I think of Caitlin Clark, I think of Tiger Woods for golf. Golf was always popular, but once Tiger came on board, those purses in the golf majors and everything, they expanded to 10, 15 million. TV contracts exploded. Sponsorships from all the things for golfers. Like, the same thing happened with Caitlin. The reason why the WNBA why their Players Association got a new contract where they stopped riding in buses and they started riding in private jets. Their minimum salary went up by, just like, I forgot how much it went up, but it was crazy. They're selling out arenas, sometimes, and they got a TV contract from ESPN, is because of Caitlin Clark. And then you see the shit that's happening with her. It's like, what the hell's going on?
Listen, I think I call bullshit, Steve. You're not an NBA expert. You didn't want to talk about Caitlin Clark, and you're talking about her before I even talk about her. That's I call bullshit.
All right, I'll let you talk about her.
What do I want to talk about Caitlin Clark? Did you see the highlight? She's been getting the shit beat out of her for the last 2 years. She was hurt a lot last year, but the refs, I don't know what it is. They don't call fouls the way they should. You've got high school refs basically in a professional league, and I think they're going to start to get paid more. But the league doesn't care about Caitlin Clark. They just released they celebrated their 30th. This is their 30th year, so they put a poster out. For the 30th year, they put 30 ladies on the poster. They did not put Caitlin Clark. They put Kate Beckers, they put Angel Reese, but they didn't put the one person that changed the league forever financially. And they hate her. And we talked about it before we went on, and I didn't really think about it the way you did. But there is a reverse racism against her that, and look, I've been watching, and I watch the highlights, and her demeanor isn't always good. She's yelling at the refs. She has this shitty look on her face. And it's not fair. If a man has that look on his face, he's tough. She's a shitty look or a bitch when she looks that way, but she just looks disgruntled and unhappy. And I would be too, I guess, a little bit, but there is not a fun thing about the way she's playing sometimes when she reacts. And, you have certain players in the NBA that, are constantly yelling at the refs, and they start to get a bad rap for it. She's getting a bad rap. But besides that, she got a fist to the throat while she was on the floor, and it wasn't even called. It's like, what? There's 3 referees. It's not like there's one ref. And she was at the center of the play, and they didn't call a foul. They reviewed it later after the game was over, and the woman got a 1-game suspension. But, it only was because her coach, finally stood up for her and said, this is ridiculous. But even her coach hates her. They don't get along. She hates her. Exactly. She's supposed to be the best player, and she's, the last 10 games, she's put up some great stats. She's putting up stats, the combination of points and assists that no other player has ever done, and she's still not at that point of where she can be. The injuries are holding her back, and now she's going to miss a game because she's got a bad back. But you would think the league would do everything they can to protect her and let her shine, because let me tell you something. If she doesn't shine, and if Kate Beckers doesn't do what they hope she does, and now forgive me, I'm forgetting the player at USC. She tore her knee last year.
Yeah.
Juju Watkins. If Juju doesn't come in and dominate, where the league's going to go? Into the toilet. And they're going to go back to where people don't care, and they only halfway care right now anyways, to be perfectly honest with you. The games are selling out more, but it's not like it's being forced on ESPN to show the highlights. And let me tell you something. If it was during the NFL season, the highlights would be at the end, and they're showing them now, and I don't like it. Look, I have a daughter. I want women's sports to be great, but it's still difficult for a lot of men to sit and watch it, and most truthfully just don't. Unless they start betting on it, they're not going to care. And the only way the league, and it's the same way in soccer, the only way this league will thrive is if the stars drive it. And it's that way in most sports. Soccer, internationally, and I wanted to mention this. Unless all the internet, I say, after this, great World Cup that's in America, will soccer finally take the imagination of Americans? And you know what? It won't. It doesn't matter. Even if the U.S. wins the World Cup, it won't. You know why? Because once these great U.S. players develop, and if they're good enough, they're going to go to Europe, or they're going to go to Brazil. They're going to go to, Qatar. They're going to go to wherever they pay the most money, and it's not in America. So, the NFL has a league in the spring. I don't even know what the hell it's called, but nobody watched it. You know why?
UFL. Yeah,
because there's no stars in it. Nobody wants to watch trash. The stars are in college. They watch that. And it's the same thing. Like, you only want to watch sports where there's stars. And Caitlyn was the first real star that captured America's heart. Was it because she was white? A little bit, yeah. But was it more because she was shooting from 30 feet? Yes, that's what it was. She was doing something that only Steph Curry could do. And Steph Curry grabbed the imagination of everybody. Here's the thing. Michael Jordan was great. He captured our imagination, but he did what we couldn't do that. We couldn't dream to be like Mike. We wanted to, but it was a dream. But we could be like Steph Curry. He wasn't overtly athletic, but we could practice to try to shoot from 30 feet. We could try to be like Caitlyn and shoot from 30 feet, but it's impossible. But we could try to do that. And that's what captured the imagination, more so than the fact that she's white. But I don't understand why the league just doesn't give a crud about her. And you can tell me why you think they don't give a shit about her.
I think it's pretty simple. She's white. She's heterosexual.
Hold on. Before you go, forgive me. That's why the players might not like her. But why the league? Why the league?
Those players beat the shit out of her. That WNBA league is incredibly woke. Everything they do, from when they do player intros, national anthem, anything they do, what they post, what they say, it's a very woke league. And here comes this, I guess, cornbread, girl from University of Iowa that is just an immense talent that got $35 million from Nike, that is the reason why NCAA women's basketball was had higher ratings than almost men's in some games. The reason why visiting stadiums had to move to, when she would play in the WNBA and had to go on the road, some of those teams had to go to another stadium just so that they can fill the fans because there's so much demand. There's jealousy. There's jealousy. And
what's the jealousy? What is it? Jealous of what?
Jealous of her being her popularity and of who she is. I hate to say that, but it has to be it. Because if I was the WNBA, I wouldn't be embracing her. And this is our meal ticket to getting endorsements, to getting large multi-million dollar contracts, to getting I don't buy the ratings at all in the WNBA. I don't think anybody's watching on ABC and ESPN. No way. But they're not doing that. In the PGA, people embraced Tiger Woods because they knew that he was going to grow the sport. These girls in the WNBA won't do it. And the 30-year anniversary poster was a perfect example of that. How could they not have her on it? Give me a break.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you go back to when Tiger won his first Masters, and there's a ritual. If you win the Masters, you plan the meal.
Yeah.
And I can remember, and I don't want to say a name that's wrong, but there was a player, a popular one, that made a reference to Tiger bringing collard greens.
Oh, and, I know.
I forget his name, and I'll think of it. But again, this is too touchy of a subject to just guess who it was. So there was pushback on Tiger, and they didn't appreciate it, and they were at that point they were still pushing back on Tiger. They didn't love the fact that his popularity was, going to the top, and he was a young man and dominating, and he was kind of arrogant, but it wasn't arrogant; it was confident. He just knew he was great.
Same with Caitlyn.
100%. And Tiger was different than all of them. Why? Because he's half Asian, half black, but his skin color was black. He looked like an African American man, and blacks, Jews, they're not allowed in country clubs. They have your own club, but don't come to ours. Hispanics, if you look different, if you didn't look like them, you weren't allowed in their club. And their club was the PGA as well. And the NBA or the WNBA, it's none of our business what their sexuality is. But yes, they don't take a poll, and again, it's none of our business what their sexuality is. But there's a lot of gay women in the WNBA, and there's an awful lot of black women in the WNBA, and the same way it took time for golf to not the fans. The fans loved Tiger right away. The same way the fans loved Caitlin Clark. It took time for the players to accept what Tiger brought as what his game was and what he was as a man, and an African American man. And it's going to take time, I think, for the players to accept Caitlin too, and she's going to have to earn that respect. But I don't, again, and I'll just say this, and I don't know the answer. Nobody does. I have no idea why the league hates her so much. And I understand, look, we get it, why the players have the jealousies, but why the commissioner, the other owners, why they don't sit and be like, what the hell's going on the floor? Why are they beating the shit out of her? What the hell is going on? And maybe it happens to other players too, and we just don't see it because they're pinpointing on Instagram and TikTok. We're seeing what happens to Caitlin more so. But it's alarming, it's disturbing, it's wrong, and they're stupid because, and maybe they're like, we got what we wanted from her. She got us our private airplanes. She got us the New Deal. She got us everything we want. Yeah. Caitlin, we all hate you. Maybe she's an awful person behind the scenes. Maybe that's what it is, and we'll find out later. Maybe she's just a piece of shit, and we'll find out 5 years from now. But they got what they wanted. They got their private jets. They got their contracts. I don't know how long it is. It's a 5-10 year deal. The women went from making $60,000 a year to $500,000 a year. The same people. So they got what they wanted, and maybe they're like, see ya, girl. Peace.
I think they got to watch it because maybe she gets to the point where she says, I'm walking away from this. I'll go play in Europe.
And she can. She can go and make just as much money in Europe.
David Portnoy talked about starting an own 3-on-3 women's basketball league and recruiting her. She can. I mean, and then they're really going to suffer.
But you know what? If none of the players like her, they ain't going to go play with her on a 3-on-3 league or anywhere else. We'll find out if all the players hate her. Sophie Cunningham likes her, and maybe she was smarter than everybody. She's like, you know what? I'm a good player, but I'm not a great player. But if I stick around her, and if I'm her sidekick, and if I'm her body armor, my star will rise. And she was smart. Her star
is rising.
Her star rose. She got a big contract. She has tons of commercials.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. That's crazy.
Smart.
Yeah.
But I don't know if anybody else really likes her. And again, maybe sooner rather than later, we'll find out what's happening and why that is. But I find it so interesting. And we don't talk about women's sports. Most sports don't, tick the box enough to even warrant a conversation. But I think this is incredibly interesting.
Hopefully that will be our last one on the WNBA.
Hopefully not. Hopefully, listen, I hope Kate Beckers, I hope these players, Juju Watkins, when she comes, makes the league interesting. But, history says there's been other great players, Cheryl Miller, Cheryl Swoops. Nobody gave a shit.
Yeah, I definitely don't. So, all right.
I want to.
You do? Okay.
I do.
Do you like WNBA or hockey more?
WNBA.
I don't know if we could be friends anymore.
I know more players in the WNBA by far than hockey. That's a fact.
God, Duke. All right.
Hey, guess what?
Yeah.
I think that if you polled the average American male sports fan, they know more WNBA players than NHL players.
You're nuts.
No, I'm not. It's true. That's how low hockey is.
You're nuts. Hockey is
the ratings for a national hockey game is like 400,000 people. There's more women. The WNBA draws more. Sorry, does.
Yeah, I don't believe one ounce of data that's coming in on the WNBA ratings. Nope.
No. I don't know. What about when Caitlin Clark, drew 18 million fans to watch her NCAA tournament?
That's what I was telling you.
You don't believe that?
I believe that.
All right. Well.
All right.
So you don't believe that?
Let's see.
2 million people can watch one of her games when 18,000 people are at an arena?
So is Caitlin Clark playing every single WNBA game? Are we saying, yeah?
No, the ratings double. When Caitlin's in a game, they're double the other games. That's a fact.
More than that. Let's see. WNBA ratings versus NHL hockey ratings. I got to see this now, Duke. You know what? We'll tackle that another
Do it for the next time. You'll see the ratings are Who cares? Ratings are ratings. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go on the streets. We're gonna take this show to the road, dude, and we're gonna ask people name 5 players in the WNBA and name 5 players in the NHL, and I guarantee you they'll be able to name 5 WNBA players, maybe 4. Let's not stretch it to 5, but 4. And there ain't hockey. Come on, man. We're in Chicago, and most people will be like, "Oh, what's that cute little white guy on the Hawks?" They're not going to even know his name's Bedard.
You're nuts.
Thank
All
God.
right.
I almost couldn't even think of his name, Connor, to be honest with you.
God. All right. Okay. It seems like you're a little ramped up and worked up. Here we go. How about Duke? Why don't you give us anything you got on what pisses Duke off?
What pisses me off?
Yeah, anything that's irritating you.
Well, this happened today. You know, I'm at the gym, and it doesn't matter where you are. I just happen to like snap out of my days because I don't even listen to music when I'm at the gym. I just get spaced out. I like to be in thought and plan my day or think about what's going on or just, work out at the gym and relax. I just decided to look around, and there are people working out, but if the people weren't working out, they were sitting on their bench or sitting on their piece of equipment, and their head was in their, I'm going to swear, okay? Their head was in their fucking phone. They were just like this. And people are walking around at the gym, and they're like this. And they're missing out on everything. It's like, what the hell is so interesting? Like, do you have to, I mean, I get it. If you're changing a song on your phone, and okay, great. If it's your playlist, but what the hell do you constantly have to look at that you just can't look up, look at people, maybe have a conversation with someone, or just be in tune with the fucking world and not stare at your phone? Like, people are walking the streets in downtown Chicago, crossing a busy intersection, and their head's down on their stupid phone. Like, what's in their phone that I'm missing? What don't I have that everybody else has that I'm not looking at my phone so much?
It's X, it's Instagram Reels, it's TikTok. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is,
So it makes you mad too.
Well, I would
You're
love.
mad too. We're both mad.
I'm a data guy. I would love to see the kids nowadays that are going to the gym and working out. Okay, whether it be LA Fitness, whatever. Let's say they're working out for 90 minutes. Of that 90 minutes, how much are they actually working out compared to how much they're on their phone?
Steve, it's not even the fact that they should be working out. It's just the fact that even if they're working out hard, in between their sets, they have to look at their phone. Why do you have to do that?
3-4 minutes? Like, remember we were working out in North Shore back in the day? We didn't have
we
social
would look
media
at
and
cute
smartphones.
Girls. We'd look at cute girls. That's what we would do.
Yes, and we would talk, and we'd say, like, okay, your 30-second rest is up. Go do your set. Nowadays, it's like...
Look at a cute girl, dude. Don't look at your phone. You can't have sex with your phone. Well, actually, you probably could have sex with your phone. But look at a cute girl. Maybe strike a conversation with another human being, you moron.
Yeah. Dude, I'm glad you brought that up. That's
God damn it, does that piss me off?
It pisses me off,
We're
too.
robots. We don't even have to wait for AI. We're already AI. We're stupid robots walking around not talking to each other.
I tell my son and my daughter, I said, if you guys are going to work out, get off social media. Get your set in, take a 30-second rest, then go back and finish it again. You're going to get much more done, much more efficient than sitting on your phone just looking at shit.
How about when you're walking into Starbucks, as opposed to looking at your phone, open the door for someone to be courteous, you dope.
Why does he
open the door for someone, make eye contact with someone, say thank you. I held the door for 2 people today. They didn't even say thank you because they were looking at their stupid phone. I'm not going to hold the door for them again, just so you know.
Stop going to fucking Starbucks. Why are you paying $8-9 for a coffee for a guy that makes worth over $30 billion? That's crazy.
I have an addiction.
You have addiction to Starbucks?
Sort of. An emotional one. The coffee's not the same at home. I have an espresso. I have a Keurig right there. I'm looking at it, and I don't use it.
So you'd rather
spend
$8-9 on a cup of coffee, and then they force you to tip them at the register?
Emerson keeps asking me, why don't I have coffee in the house? Because she likes to make it for me every morning. And I don't buy it because I keep going to Starbucks.
All right. Now I know where your money's going. No, that shit doesn't happen here. All right. What an episode, man. We tackled so much shit.
We're fired up.
I am fired up.
I'm fired up. I'm annoyed by a lot of things annoy me, I guess. I thought things didn't annoy me, but a lot of things annoy me.
And this sucks.
I want people just to, I wish I could go back to the 1950s and 60s where, people, families, they didn't even watch TV. They just sat and looked at the radio and listened. They listened to the show, and then you know, I don't know.
Dude, that's good that you said
Had
it.
dinner together. Oh, such a good time.
No, it's good that you said it because, we got Brandon here and, of course, Marissa's here. And, we're having a lot of solid family nights here. Ella will make dinner. And, all four of us will sit on the couch. We try to tell each other to get off our fucking phone. We'll watch a show like Walking Dead or something like that. We played Monopoly the other night. We played, it was total family time. I'm like, this is the way it should be. Because when the kids go in their room and hide in there, I get pissed. So,
yeah. Steve Emerson, my daughter, 6 years old, player of the week, softball.
all right.
Her hands were like this. I said, Emerson, I was watching something. I was watching the Frank Thomas. I said, get your hands back a little bit. Your timing's off. Her hands were too close there, so her timing's off. Her back here, whacking the ball. Player of the week. Emerson, way to go, kid.
I'm proud. I'm seriously proud.
Player of the week. She was proud, most important.
Good. Hey, if she loves softball, then you're in it for a long haul. Because
We're not doing trouble.
Gianna played softball, right? You freeze your ass off in the stands. You got these chairs, you got blankets. You watch these softball games. 9 girls go up to bat per inning because everybody walks. Maybe you'll get a pitcher that can throw some strikes. You're there for a long time. So if she's in softball, I know you said that you'll sacrifice everything. You're going to have a fun time because I did it for Gianna for softball and Brandon for baseball. It was tough. But that's what us dads do.
Yeah, Emerson, if you're watching, remember, hands back a little bit. There it is.
Hands back.
You know, who was the famous hitting coach for the White Sox back in the day? Charlie Lyle.
Charlie Lyle, all right.
Who was Frank Thomas's personal hitting coach? Walt Horniak.
I remember that name.
Yeah, sure.
I do. Was he in a movie?
Charlie Lyle was. He was in a Matthew Broderick movie where he had an uncle that was rich. I forget what it was, and he paid for him to have a hitting coach. It was Charlie Lyle.
Jesus, Duke, the Cubs are fucking losing now.
They're going against Mizorowski. They're going to lose.
They were beating Mizorowski 1-0, and then the Cubs had
a run.
They had to go to their horseshit bullpen, and they lost.
They're supposed to lose to Milwaukee. They're better than us. What's the score of the White Sox?
17-1.
There you go. Clark, I'll meet you at the World Series, bud.
All right. Thank you for tuning in.
An hour and 12 minutes? What have we done?
Cow. It's 10 o'clock on the nose. Still got plenty of time tonight.
I hope people are still listening. This was a long listen.
This is a long one. There's a lot of sports, too. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Don't forget to give us your feedback. We'd love to hear it. And Michaels and Duke are out.
Glad your shoulder's feeling better.
It feels better. Are you going to give your peace sign or what?